I am joined again by Dewsbury and Batley's local MP Iqbal Mohamed. Iqbal, how are we doing today?
Assalamu alaikum, I'm doing really well.
Alaikum salam. You seem in a chirpy mood today.
Alhamdulillah, best job in the world, bro.
Bro, seriously? Is that what we're doing today, bro? You know, you know what? I'm not cutting it. We're carrying on straight off that. How's it been in Parliament? How's your time been there?
So we sat down a year ago. The year has flown by. Christmas has come round like it was a couple of months ago. Lots of international issues, lots of local issues. We've kept highlighting the international issues, one of which I was voted in for. Gaza, we got recognition of Palestine, but it's a bit symbolic. There's not been really any change on the ground. And the ceasefire from October the 10th hasn't really been a ceasefire. Every single person on the planet, including Trump, knew that Israel was going to continue what it was doing once it got its hostages back. And that's what's happened.
Which lets me jump straight into my first question. So you faced significant backlash for some of the tweets you made regarding the conflict in Gaza. Did you anticipate that you were going to receive that sort of backlash?
So it depends what you mean by backlash. So there has been over decades just a propaganda machine that's been trying to deceive the public about the reality of what Israel has been doing since 1948. Thankfully, and also unfortunately, through the live stream genocide, people saw the truth with their own eyes, their own ears. And you can't unsee what you see. Children being bombed to pieces, starved to death, schools, hospitals, universities, infrastructure, water treatment, sewage being reverse pumped into the streets. And now, recently, we see the makeshift tents in winter in Gaza being blown through by gale force winds, water seeping into mattresses, babies dying of hypothermia. So all of that can't be unseen. No matter what your propaganda machine is, you can't erase that from people's memory. What I've never done is attack people, individuals, for what they believe or what they are. I've always attacked what they've done to others. And I will always continue to attack and call out what they've done to the injustices against the Palestinian people, not just in Gaza, the West Bank, over 40,000 displaced, whole villages ring-fenced and put behind gates. If you don't get to the gate in time on an evening, you basically stay outside for all of the night, and then you have to go back to work or wherever you need to go in the morning. If you don't get out in time, then you're stuck inside. You can't go to school, go to college, go to work, go to a hospital, go for treatment. It's absolutely despicable. The depravity, the inhumanity, the dehumanization of these people is off the charts. And thankfully, people have seen that and they're saying it. Not just me, my colleagues in Parliament and journalists and people of conscience around the world.
Now, one of the claims that you're being picked on is when you compare what's going on in Gaza to the Holocaust. Some Jewish groups have come out saying that that's deeply offensive. How do you respond to those claims?
So when you look at the Holocaust, and every child in our country gets rightly taught about what happened in this, before the Second World War and during the Second World War, 6 million Jews were systematically dehumanized and murdered via all sorts of depraved means. Okay, they were lined up against walls and shot. They were gassed in dedicated gas chambers. They were starved to death. You saw skin and bones and nothing else. The mothers had their children stolen from them and they were separated at birth and they never reunited. And there were many, many other atrocities committed by the Nazis. Every single one of them completely unforgivable. Okay? And the reason why we are calling what's happening in Gaza a Holocaust, because those same atrocities are being perpetrated by the Israeli army. The IDF, you know, it stands for Israeli Defense Forces, but they're actually just the death squad. They are the IDF, D stands for death. They have been shooting children for fun. for target practice. Before this ceasefire, when the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, so-called, was allegedly distributing aid, it used to open for 20-minute slots and close for 4 hours. People used to just clamour for food. They were starving to death. And the IDF was sat 100 metres, 200 metres away taking pot shots at children, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. We have x-rays of bullets in children's heads, in their chests, in their genitalia, in their legs. So this level of inhumanity and depravity, you know, is absolutely the same level of inhumanity and depravity that the Nazis showed.
So you stand by those words?
Absolutely. Anybody with a human conscience will stand by the comparison. And this weaponization of anti-Semitism and this monopolization of the word Holocaust. The Holocaust isn't specific to a religious group or a particular ethnicity. It defines the absolute abominable actions of the Nazis against human beings who happened to be Jews, and they were targeted because they were Jews. Israel is doing exactly the same to Palestinians because they're Palestinians. And whether they're Christian, whether they're Muslim, it doesn't matter. They're doing exactly the same. So I don't see how they want to try and use this Zionist propaganda playbook to try and shut down. It's not even a debate, it's factual reporting that a Holocaust happened in Nazi Germany and a Holocaust has been happening over the last 2 years in Gaza and in the West Bank.
So as an MP, do you feel that you carry a different level of responsibility in comparison to a campaigner or an activist?
So before you're an MP, before you're an activist, before you're a student, you're a human being. Okay, we all have to have a conscience, and we should aim to have a just and fair conscience, something that treats every single human being with the same level of compassion, empathy, and respect. So that's a general position that people of our country, people around the world, we've seen marches in over 50 countries. Millions of people have taken to the streets. The BDS movement is going from, is expanding. MPs have been suppressed through fear of being called anti-Semites, being labelled X and labelled Y. But as I said, when the facts have been live streamed to the whole world, it's very hard now for people to unsee that, and for the Israeli propaganda corporation to tell us that what we're seeing is not true. And as an MP, the extra responsibility you have is to call out things for what they are, and to call out our inaction in stopping them, or our role in enabling, aiding and abetting them. And me, my colleagues in the Independent Alliance and MPs from across the House have been calling that out over the last 18 months. The language has changed. There are people now more confident to speak the truth. And we all know that anti-Semitism is abhorrent. It's related to mistreatment and disrespect and discrimination of people because of their faith. And I completely, condemn any form of discrimination against any people for their race, for their faith, or for not having any faith. But to call out an individual's actions for what they are as an action, if I was to commit harm, if I was to do something wrong, and I was called out for doing something wrong, that wouldn't, if I called that Islamophobic, I would be laughed at, rightly so. Okay, so these rules that apply to everybody else haven't been applied to the Israelis. There are many millions of Jewish people with conscience around the world. Okay, they are our brothers and sisters in humanity and in Abrahamic faith, and they also see the truth, and they are calling out the Israelis for using their faith to commit these atrocities. And the Israelis and the Zionist propaganda machine is calling these people self-hating Jews. So the propaganda machine will use any label to try and shut down discussion of what Israel's been doing for now 77 plus years.
Do you think that there's enough space in the UK for people to call out what's going on in Israel and what's going on in Gaza robustly without the accusations of anti-Semitism? Or do you feel like that line's been blurred?
So it was very difficult. People have been cancelled, people have lost their jobs, people have had to, shut down their social media accounts. Guy Pearce, Australian Hollywood actor, he was supportive or he was against the injustices against the Palestinian people by the Israelis. And he made a mistake and he tweeted something that could be deemed anti-Semitic. There is no room for deliberate discrimination. Where somebody has inadvertently made a mistake, they have deleted and withdrawn or removed that post. Gary Lineker with the post that he didn't see there was an image of rats or some anti-Semitic trope. None of that was deliberate, but they removed it, yet they then are pressured into resigning from the BBC or stopping using their social media. We have to use our voice, whether it's face-to-face, in public, or on social media, or through the mainstream media, very responsibly. We have to be the change we want to see, I am here for all my constituents, for all of the citizens of Britain, and also all of the communities around the world. I condemn the attack on the synagogue in Manchester. I condemn the attack on the Jewish worshippers celebrating the first night of Hanukkah on Bondi Beach. And one of the people who hopefully saved lives by tackling the gunman to the ground is an absolute hero, but he didn't do it because he was Jewish. He did it because what was being done to the people on the beach was completely unacceptable. It was murder. That's the kind of person I want to be. And when I stand up in Parliament and when I speak out against any injustice, whether it's local, whether it's national, whether it's international, whether it's Gaza, Sudan, Ukraine or elsewhere, I hope to be truthful to myself and truthful in my speech. And if I make a mistake, I'm the first to acknowledge, understand, apologize, and then correct my ways. That's how I've been brought up, and that's how most people have been brought up in our country.
And I mean, that statement that you just made about being responsible about what you post online, I was going to reference a tweet of yours, but I think I'm going to move straight on to the next topic just because I think that feeds off well of what you just said. On X, Mohammed, you wrote, white and brown men shouldn't be telling or forcing biological women to give up their rights and private spaces. I also believe in the human rights of all trans and LGBTQ plus people, but not by taking away the hard-won rights of women. What do you mean by that?
So we have a spectrum of people in our country, in the world, who have many things that we agree on that are common. We all have to eat, we all have to sleep, we all have to go to the bathroom, we all want to have a good, healthy relationship with someone and build a family or have a good career or enough money to feed our children, our family, ourselves and look after ourselves. So there are core rights of human beings and every single right should be equal and they should be protected or delivered by government, So education is a right, housing is a right, not going to bed hungry is a right, not being cold at night or having shoes that don't leak water when you go to school is a right. When you grow up, having your own sexual preferences or your lifestyle choices within the bounds of the law are a right. And I'm never going to stop.
Does that include the right of a transgender woman to go into women's spaces?
So I'm coming to that. So women have a right to privacy. So do men. As a Muslim man, I wouldn't share a changing space with another woman. Mm-hmm. That's part of my faith and that's how I've been brought up. Women protested, campaigned for and lost their life for many of the rights that they were given. sometimes decades, if not centuries, after those same rights
They
were
also
given to
fought
men.
for the rights of the LGBTQ plus community as well.
So they, the many women across our country value the right to privacy, and women of faith or no faith, it doesn't really matter. It's privacy. You know, I don't want to get undressed in front of a stranger, even another man. But I get that we have mixed gender-specific changing spaces in public facilities. So I will accommodate or use those in the way I can. So women. Transgender women who are not transitioned. So anybody who's transitioned, they have been through treatment, operations. They are not transgender women. They are women. Because biologically they have been transitioned to being female. When I talk about transgender men,
but they might not identify.
When I talk about transgender men, it's people who've identified who are physically not women yet. They are still men.
So your arguments on biological differences.
So the demand of transgender men.
Is your argument based on biological differences?
So I completely agree with the Supreme Court ruling that sex is defined by biology.
Yes.
Okay. And for me, facts don't replace feelings. And nobody can take away the pre-existing rights of another group, so that they can feel better about themselves.
What pre-existing rights being taken away?
The women's right to private spaces.
But they still have that right.
No.
Nobody loses that right. Transgender men and women feeling the need to go into a space where they feel more comfortable, as opposed to having to be segregated off into a private space. I feel that's more isolating.
For whom?
For those people.
And what about the women who are in those spaces who don't want to share their space with others?
If they're not comfortable by that, that's fine. But
so that's the majority of the women that I represent in my constituency.
In your constituency, but this is a national issue that you.
And nationally, out of the 50% of the women population, about 95% of that population want their private spaces.
Where did you get that stuff
Sorry?
from? Where did you get that stuff?
I'll have to give you the reference later.
That's fine. I'll need to fact check that.
You can research, yeah.
But speaking
but
about
for somebody, if I'm happy to change in a unisex space, if you're happy to change in a unisex space, if my wife, my sister, my daughter are changing, then why are transgender men not happy to change in a unisex space? We're not asking them to
that wasn't part of the question. No one said they weren't.
Sorry?
Nobody said that a transgender man wouldn't be. Or transgender woman.
Oh, they are. That's the objection they have. Why should we be segregated off? Well, everybody has sometimes unisex spaces or single-sex spaces.
Yeah.
And that should remain.
No, of course. By no means.
And transgender men should not be allowed in women-only spaces.
Why not?
Because women don't want them there.
But again, you're saying you've just given me a stat. You said 95% of
women don't want them there. I haven't met a woman
in this constituency, which is fine. But the question is, this is a national issue, and you've jumped on it. But you know how your constituency feels.
I haven't jumped on it at all.
A lot of your tweets.
I've engaged in the debate to represent the views of my constituents.
Quite vigorously
I think
engaged.
I've tweeted 4 times.
4 or 5 maybe. I think I saw.
And they've been very balanced tweets.
That's not what the responses.
Oh, the responses are from white middle-class men who are not even trans. So, do I really care about the responses from a minority who I don't know, who I don't represent?
This is what happens when you jump into something that becomes really opinionated.
I didn't
Which is why
I stand by what I said, and I will fight for the right for the women in my constituency to have private spaces.
Of course. But identity politics, is it something that you really need to jump into, especially when you're having a conversation with me, telling me that you feel like you know what you represent for your constituency? Is it necessary for you to jump into these identity politics?
So when I ran for election, I promised my constituents to be their voice, and I will always be their voice, and I'm being their voice.
Is that you being their voice, or is that you being your voice, though?
My voice and their voice in this one is the same. But I'm not a woman, and I'm representing women. So when I say, you know, black, brown, white men shouldn't be telling women what to do, yeah, I've got emails from many women. I've had less than 5 from trans women who object to. I've met trans women in my surgeries. They've asked me questions. They've gone away reassured. I'm very comfortable in my position and the fact that I'm representing my constituents, and the trans people I've met don't have a problem with my position. So I'm not the one playing identity politics. It's the online
People
keyboard cowards.
responding to. Okay. So some trans people have said that the post made them feel less represented by the MP. What would you directly say to those constituents?
I would ask them to reach out to me and let's have a chat.
What
I don't know who they are.
What you can have the chat about?
I don't know
What would you
I
say
don't know
to
who they
them?
are.
What would you say to them?
I don't know who they are.
But what would you say to them?
I would say exactly what I said to you.
I'm telling you that there's
Saying
people that
you-
might be uncomfortable with those, remarks.
Yeah.
What would you say to those? They
I'm,
might be watching the video now.
I'm uncomfortable with people smoking around me.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't go stopping them. I don't change the law for me. Yeah, so
But you want to change the law for these guys?
no, the law is to be protected as it is. It shouldn't be changed. The Supreme Court's ruled, and the transgender lobby need to accept the ruling.
But the Supreme Court ruling was based on one case.
The Supreme Court has ruled,
Yes.
and the
Based on
transgender
one
lobby
case.
need to accept the law of the land. If I, as a Muslim, or just as a normal layperson, said, I don't agree with X in our law, or that Y in our law, and I'm going to go out and break that law, go out to oppose it by my actions, then there will be actions against me, whatever reprimand and consequences I have to do. Having a private space for everyone, for them to change and participate in
right?
society is
Is
an
it right?
absolutely fine solution,
Of course.
except for the people on social media who think it's not.
Well, I think we'll leave that. I think we'll close that topic off there. I think unless you want to start naming some people, because I feel like me and you both know who you're talking about when you say people online. I think we know which specific people you are referring to.
Well, the people who responded to my tweets, I don't know them from Adam, so
Yeah,
I couldn't name them.
Fair enough. Yeah. The next topic is your party. So that was
Whose party? Your
it was
party.
called- it's not my party. It was called your party.
It still is.
It still is called your party. Apparently, the little vote that they were doing.
That's the name.
Yeah, that's the name. They're sticking with
I
your
think it's
party.
cute.
Guys. Right. So you briefly joined your party.
I briefly helped
Set it up.
steward it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you joined as well. You're part of them, and I mean, I'll get onto your tweet and your statement at the end, but you resigned. So what happened? It was a mess, but what happened?
So I think most people have seen what's happened play out in public.
Tell us what your perspective is.
So my perspective is I was invited in by I have very few political heroes. By one of them in Jeremy. We joined a larger group who within weeks days started infighting. We had nothing to do with the infighting. We never commented. We never took part. And then after a few weeks, we said, do you know what, guys? If this is how it's going to be...
You and Jeremy Corbyn didn't get into the infighting, is that what you're saying?
Sorry?
You're saying you and Jeremy Corbyn didn't get involved in the infighting?
I didn't.
Okay.
And Jeremy didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we did, and I think I've tweeted on this, so I can tell you anyway, because I don't want to add to this. Oh, he's
Discourse.
left now, and he wants to, have a pop at your party. It's a free country. People can create a party, join a party, change it, adapt it as they see fit. I didn't see a role for me in it, and my contribution ended. But in the meeting where the group invited Zarah and proposed Zarah and Jeremy as co-leader, I voted for that. I thought, wow, experience, youth,
So you voted for co-leadership during that
I've
conference?
tweeted about that.
Okay.
So did all the other MPs on that group. So the fact that we've been somehow tainted as these enemies of Zarah and the fact that we've been out to get her and all this, If that was the case, none of us would have voted for her and been excited by her joining, It was her decision to leave Labour, nothing to do with me. And why she left, and the fact that she wanted a guaranteed co-leadership position to leave. Again, I thought, well, she's leaving a party that got her elected twice, and she needs a bit of security, and she needs a vehicle to continue her work, because she's, on her day, she's amazing, and she has been one of the few politicians that I'd followed before being elected. So we voted for that co-leadership model, and within an hour there was a tweet.
Did you feel like co-leadership would be viable going into an election?
No, this was co-leadership to set up the party.
Okay. So
it was an interim position.
This wasn't going to
what
last
the final
the
position was going to be was going to be up to the members.
Okay.
Yeah. In the meeting, Jeremy said, we don't need any leaders. We've got a group, let's make this happen. Yeah. So it wasn't that he wanted to be leader. He just said, we can't, as an unelected group of people, the 5 MPs were elected, but not as representatives of a party. They were elected as MPs. So we didn't want any kind of leadership position or wanted some power. So Jeremy was like, guys, this doesn't make any sense. We don't need to co-leadership. We don't need to announce anything. But the vote had happened. It passed by several votes. It wasn't even, it wasn't close because, we were lobbied hard. I think I got played a bit, and I've said that as well.
By who?
By people who wanted this co-leadership to be approved so that we could move forward.
Higher ups of your
there
party?
weren't any higher ups. We were all
there was
a group.
There was all these conspiracies going around that there was this group really close to Jeremy that was dictating things behind the scenes.
So the tweet went out an hour after that meeting by Zarah saying, I've left the Labour Party and I'm now co-leader of this new movement.
Did she tell you about that before she made that statement?
She didn't tell anyone. She didn't tell Jeremy. So that excitement, wow, dream ticket, Yoda and I don't know, Princess Leia, the Jedi and the Jedi Master are going to work together and we're going to support them. We didn't want any leadership position. We weren't going to fight them for anything. We were going to vote for, and we thought, you'd put Jeremy in charge as a party. I'm sure he would get elected. Maybe after 2 years, he would then step down and Zarah would... There was all these views I had. Didn't discuss them. There was no plans.
Princess Leia is a new one of we. Does anyone know
I couldn't think of a female Jedi.
Right.
Princess Leia is the sister of Luke.
Okay.
Come on.
That's fine. I'll pop the picture up.
So my apologies. My contemporary Star Wars knowledge is quite weak.
That's okay.
So mine's all original.
It's okay. I haven't watched it either.
But she was a Jedi, and but he was So when we first before we formed the Independent Alliance, I used to walk around Parliament telling people we were the Rebel Alliance, and Jeremy was Yoda. It was such a great image.
To have Jeremy Corbyn as Yoda,
and and he's training the apprentices.
So who were you telling that you were the Rebel Alliance? That's
people around Parliament. I was like,
just workers or MPs.
No, friendly MPs and stuff. It was a joke. It was an in-joke. Nobody ever created a meme for me. Maybe one of your viewers can create a meme about us.
About what?
As us.
The fact that you started off this interview with bro or
whatever you want.
Like that.
Whatever you want. So anyway, and then it sort of just went downhill from there. It never recovered.
Okay.
It took us 2 weeks to get them back together, talking. Zara apologised in person, and we were sat in PMQs. That one day in Parliament when I felt that we were bigger than the sum of our parts, like much bigger. I felt bigger than some of our parts as the alliance from the day we met.
What is your personal opinion of Zarah?
Sorry?
Zarah Sultana. What's your personal opinion?
In what sense?
What do you think of her?
I don't know her.
In
3.5, 4 months, she attended 2 meetings, joined a couple of calls, and called us misogynists. That's all I know from her. And everything else I know about her is what she tweets about us.
Fair enough.
Without any evidence, without any apology, she withdrew the tweet where she called us a sexist boys club. We were joking that she might have meant sexy boys club, but but it wasn't. You have to joke about it because it was so serious.
You're too self-confident.
It was so serious.
You are too self-confident.
It was a joke. It was so serious, yeah. And we really, as simple people trying to serve our community that welcomed Zarah, and with full respect. She was involved in all the groups and had every message that we had. There was nothing that was shared between us that she didn't see that was a decision around, I don't know, some basic admin around the party. How do we launch a membership portal? How much the fee should be? This conference, where will it be? How many people should attend? These are all open conversations.
So do you see yourself cooperating with your party in the future, or do you see yourself distancing yourself from it?
No. So what's happened is the foundations of your party are tainted.
Okay.
If you urinate in a bucket, you've got to get rid of all the water before you can start using that bucket again.
So you don't see a future for it?
No, not for me.
You don't see a future? No.
I
wish resigned.
I wish it the best in the sense of it goes back to being honest, transparent, and for the people. And whoever's being led by their egos or being advised by egos, they just need to sort of take stock and say, why was I here from day one? I've been fighting this fight, whether it's under Laibah, now as an independent, or now under your party. We can't change. You've got to keep fighting the same fight.
Yeah.
And if opportunities arise where you can play a bigger role, a more impactful role, absolutely go for it. I would respect sincere ambition, but know that don't take any steps that would harm the cause, that would damage the people that you're trying to serve. That's all my message is. So
I was going to carry on, and I was going to refer to that part of your statement when you mentioned false allegations and smears, but I feel like you've already addressed that. So, is there anything else you want to address on that?
So we were called misogynists in the first meeting we ever had with Zarah. It was like...
After or before?
No, after she left Laibah and joined we welcomed her into the alliance, There was no contract to sign. It was like, do you want to be in the alliance? Yes, welcome, brilliant. We've got a 20% increase. Another MP joins. She's female, she's powerful, she's a voice in the country, and adds to the work, adds to our effectiveness. It was never about us, We are the strongest unit in Parliament. Everybody knows why we're there. Everybody knows we can't be bought.
What makes you
and
strong?
Everybody knows that we're not there for ourselves either.
What makes you strong? What makes you so strong, do you think?
We met on the first day in Parliament after I got elected in Jeremy's office, and it was like 5 magnets. You bring them close and they just stick. And we became fused into one unit. We have not agreed on everything, but where we've disagreed, we haven't caused an issue or made a drama about it. Or
don't you think that's the same argument Reform would be using, Reform UK?
Sorry?
They're like the strong alliance of MPs.
They can make whatever argument they want.
I'd say it's a similar...
So they've had 2 MPs that have left. One got kicked out, the other one resigned. They're on a policy platform. We sit behind them. They don't agree on half the stuff.
No, we can see
that we do in terms of percentages. But again, we have 3 rules as the alliance: work together where we agree, do our own thing where our constituents demand something different, and don't fall out. And we're still united, and we're still following those same rules, and we will continue to follow them until we have the opportunity to serve our constituents in Parliament. Whether some of those members are now part of your party, Jeremy, Shoka, Ayub, that's up to them. It's something I don't agree with, but we said we're not going to fall out over it. So if your party then conflicts with the ethos of the alliance, what we stand for, then it's their job to explain to their constituents or to us why. But we're adults, Jeremy, after 1 year, told his people around him that he'd never worked with a group of MPs like us. And people asked him, what does he mean? He said, well, there's just no drama. They're sincere. They are what it says on the tin. And if that's how I die and my epitaph says, Jeremy said he's not worked with somebody like me, I think I can live with that. People have had a go at Jeremy for being too nice. Ammar, if may God give you a long and a healthy life, but at the end of the time, when we finished our time on the earth, and it says on our gravestone, Ammar was too nice, I think you could live with that. I could live with it, alhamdulillah.
I think the opposite would be written on mine, but
no, inshallah.
probably.
But do you know what I mean? So look, people have strengths and weaknesses, and we had to build a blend of skills and a blend of leadership. And, you know, Zarah had that fire, that get up and go, and Jeremy was, you know, conciliatory, collaborative. And we saw a formula that was just going to be best of both worlds. And maybe it will still happen, and maybe we'll just watch the four of them and then all these other MPs get elected.
So I can see you're close with Jeremy. Do you feel like you can build these relationships back up in time for the next general election, or do you think that that's it now? I'm just Dewsbury and Batley's independent MP.
I'm Dewsbury and Batley independent MP now, and I don't see that changing in the foreseeable future.
Fair enough. Is there a risk that independence becomes isolation?
So before I got elected, you know, the Labour Party, the Tories was like, well, why are you going to elect an independent, you know? There'll be a lone voice who won't have any impact on anything in Parliament. And I'm not going to sit here and take any credit for what my colleagues have done and what other MPs across the House have done, because they've been there longer and they've been fighting this fight before I even arrived in Parliament. But we changed the rhetoric about Gaza. Shoka Adam had a private members bill for the recognition of Palestine. We pushed on weapons sales to Israel, and we got 9% banned or suspended. Every time something happens where our government, our country's got its fingers in the pie or is contributed, is aided and abetted, we stand up and hold our government accountable. You know, we've put every single minister on the spot for their portfolio, whether it's been health, whether it's education, whether it's defence, whether it's foreign minister, whether it's home secretary, whether it's the prime minister. And we keep telling Labour, you know, why are you trying to steal reform's clothes? Because everywhere in Europe, everywhere in the world where the left has tried to ape the right wing to try and capture the vote or protect the vote that they believe is going to be lost, they've never succeeded. And you can't expect the public to vote for a cheap copy of reform when reform exists. So the only way that you can defeat reform and stop the people being hoodwinked and deceived like they were with Brexit is by showing them how to do it properly, how to grow our country, protect our people, fulfill everybody's human rights, and make every single public service world class. Make sure nobody's going to bed hungry or nobody's going to school hungry, that everybody can turn on the heating when they need. They've all got books, they've all got places to do their revision in, you know, and not living in a 2-bed flat with 5 siblings. All these challenges, you know, and reform are feeding off this frenzy of blame. And they're winning. You know, the 2-child benefit cap we voted against. Zarah Sultana voted against. 6 other MPs voted against. They were suspended from the Labour Party. A year later, they reverse it. So Labour doesn't know where it stands on core policies or its conscience.
Which I understand. It's a good point, but it has diverted from the question. You being an independent MP, could that become isolation for you?
No.
Why is that?
Because we've been effective in the first 18 months. We're not going to change. We're going to still hold the government to account for all of the missteps and all its complicity in war crimes and, you know, dishonest behaviours at every single point. And we getting up and speaking first gives other MPs the confidence to then repeat.
And what have you done since the start of your time in Parliament?
So
can you name a few things?
So we've helped thousands of constituents, because that's where we start.
Casework.
My philosophy, my mission statement, first one in this office, which we were staff, constituents first. They're the people who put their trust in me to represent them, to help them in their greatest hour of need, for their challenges here. I've tried to be the most accessible MP, and that was a promise. I've had every 2 weeks, 45, 40 plus surgeries across the constituency, from supermarkets to churches to community centres to this office. I've had public meetings where people have come, got a short report, and then been able to ask me questions. We've had people coming in asking about, cost of living, about the assisted dying bill, and we've fought for. We've voted against, poor government policy, increased defence spending, not abolishing the two-child benefit cap, but we've supported the government where they are helping our country with NHS investment in education, breakfast clubs and free school meals, etc. We have shown, not just to our communities, but to the whole of the country, what real democracy looks like, Ammar. Because our whip is our constituents or my conscience. And I was asked a question during the hustings, if your constituents were split on an issue, then which way would you vote? And then it's I'd vote with my conscience because that's the mandate I have from being elected. So, and the people who come to see me, I had a call with a constituent today who was not very happy with the outcomes that we'd managed to achieve for that person. I'm going to go see that person personally this week before Christmas and see what else we can do. But we can't wave a magic wand and fix the core problems of this country or what our local council has been failing on for decades for our constituents. But we will work with whoever and wherever to make individual people's and our constituencies' lives and our country's citizens' lives better, one small step at a time. So being that independent voice is what we promised. It's what we are. We're not afraid of anyone in that place. And that has, as I say, given other MPs confidence to speak out. The disability cuts that we're going to bring in, 40 Labour MPs or 100 Labour MPs rebelled, okay? But the first opposition statement against those cuts came from the Independent Alliance. Mm-hmm. So I'm not here to take any credit. We try and do good and move on to the next. And, whatever small contribution, difference we've made to give other people confidence or to act as a catalyst, we're grateful for that opportunity and will continue being that voice and that catalyst.
Well, let's move on to some local issues because start talking about your cases with constituents and the likes, and I think it's a good place to jump into. So, the decline of local sports facilities. Firstly, you've heard about Dewsbury Sports Centre, heard about the new plans, but what does the decline of the facilities mean for people in Dewsbury and Batley? What does this decline mean?
It's been absolutely devastating. So I supported the campaign to repair and reopen the sports centre during my election campaign. Yeah. So again, I wasn't trying to jump on a bandwagon and get some publicity material. I strongly believed that was a critical facility in our town centre. I and my children had learnt how to swim in that place. I'd gone to play football, badminton and all the other facilities that they had. Had a personal and still have a personal connection to it. We had, according to Cal, around 4,000 paying monthly members. And around 10,000 to 15,000 monthly visits. There may have been same people going multiple times, but that's how many sort of equivalent people were attending. That brought people into the town centre, supported local businesses, it got people out. There were elderly people managing their arthritis and other health conditions by going to do exercise, by going swimming. Swimming is a unique exercise that you can do by minimising pressure on your joints and it's cardiovascular as well. So I saw that the independent report that they published and the issues with the sports centre, and it had one potential critical issue, and there was an easy workaround to prop up the boiler room and to then repair that part of the roof and be able to keep the rest of it open. The reason to temporarily shut it, then have the report done, I think was misrepresented to the community. They then waited a whole year to declare it permanently closed. I attended the council meeting remotely from London, and I made a deputation or whatever it was called. They ignored it and they shut it down. While before they shut it down, between September 2023 and November 2024, the council, including the council leader, were telling people that the sports centre made no positive contribution to people's health in Dewsbury. It didn't make any commonsensical sense to say that. Commonsensical sense. It was.
We're making new words today.
Yeah. It just was so pathetic to say people exercising, even if it was 100 people a month, and it was 10,000 visits, they were benefiting, right? They were either walking to that place, doing their exercise, walking back, getting a bus, supporting the economy, getting there, maybe walking around town, getting a drink, getting a food. So to say that was a sign of complete and utter disrespect for Dewsbury, the people of Dewsbury, who the council have taken for fools. They think we're uneducated idiots who believe that closing a sports centre doesn't have any adverse impact on people's health, especially the people who are using it. Of course, me sat at home not going to the sports centre, it's not going to help me. Yeah? But that's what they were saying. Then they spent tens of thousands of pounds on a survey, and the survey showed that it had a huge, it helped hundreds, if not thousands of people to manage their health conditions or to stop it, declining or even improve it. And based on this survey now, they have made this pledge for 2028 to set aside over 32 million quid to build a new leisure facility. 35 million pounds, thank you, to build a new leisure facility. Do you know what? Please, thank you very much. Why wait till 2028? Why can't we start building tomorrow?
I'm going to pause you there. We're having some technical issues. We'll be back after a second. We are back. We started talking about posts, and then I made a 6-7 joke, and yeah, we're here now. But the next question is, as an MP, what leverage do you realistically have to protect or improve local leisure facilities?
Actually, majority of local services are delivered by the council. The funding comes from central government. Over 14 years of Tory rule, Tories in government, they absolutely slashed local government funding. I think in real terms over 30%. Our council, and I do sympathise, they are being asked to do more with less money. The cost of education, especially for SEND children, the transportation costs, is not just impacting Dewsbury, Batley or Kirklees, it's impacting councils across the country. It's a ticking time bomb that will send many councils bankrupt. The government's just announced another £3 billion for SEND funding. So I'm hoping that our council gets its fair share.
SEND issues have been a really major talking point in this constituency. Do you want to dive a little bit deeper into that and explain to the audience what that is?
So the education for children with special education needs and disabilities. These are children who are, because of their condition or their disability, are not able to be educated in mainstream education and get a high quality education that they deserve. It also, the teachers in mainstream education, not many of them have specialist training to be able to cater for children with SEND needs, special education needs and disabilities. So we have a few specialist schools, Ravensall in Dewsbury, just between Thornhill and Ravensthorpe. We've got some private provisions, Birkbeck College and Birkbeck School, and then we have other specialist schools across Kirklees that are outside of Dewsbury and Batley. Children are being transported from Dewsbury Batley to these schools in Wakefield and in Huddersfield and in elsewhere, and sometimes they're taking an hour there, an hour back. They need to be chaperoned to the school, the cost of the transport, which the council is covering where it can. It is a massive challenge, and I'm going to thank Kirklees for what it tries to do. Okay, I have stood up in Parliament 3 times as far as I can remember, in this year. And my last question to the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, was about extra SEND funding for kirklees. So I may not always agree with everything kirklees is doing, the sports centre being one of them, the way it's been communicated, that this future plan to spend 35 million, which they don't have, I just feel is a red herring. But I will always stand up and fight for more funding for our council, because first they have to get the money, then I will hold them accountable to spend it wisely.
So you're saying that 35 million that they've committed?
The 35 million is a finger. It's a penciled in number. There's no budget.
Okay.
There's no guaranteed ring fenced amount available. They are saying in 2028, if everything else allows, we will allocate 35 million. The other thing as well, when you're going to build a new leisure facility without a plan, without requirements, without capacity measurements, without anything, without a tender, you're telling these building companies, these contractors, how much money you've got or you may have, and then you're going to go out to tender. Do you think a leisure centre that was going to cost 20 million, 25 million is now not going to cost suddenly 35 exactly? That's how business works. The council needs to be much smarter in how it engages with suppliers and how much bang we get for our buck when it comes to spending money. So they have processes. I've been exposed to those as part of the Dewsbury Neighbourhood Board Regeneration that I'm a member of. And a lot of them are not transparent and they're restrictive, and they could be re-engineered so that we get better value for money and more transparency for the public.
So are you calling for more transparency from kirklees?
The council must be super transparent. Nothing should be secret or hidden unless there's a commercial or legal reason where the information is not in the public's interest. It's GDPR, private information or commercially sensitive information. But these councillors, the cabinet system, 8 councillors, all Laibah, they don't have a majority in kirklees deciding on how much money we get in Dewsbury and Batley, how much money gets spent on leisure services, what gets shut down, what stays open. They've just listed Batley Baths up for sale, with a guide price of 200,000.
That was going to be my next thing.
Yeah. They spent, as far as my understanding is, and this was before I became elected, and I haven't got all the facts in front of me, but they spent more than that on renovating it and doing some refurbishment. Now that they want to sell it for less than what they invested in that building, Downs and Special Friends.
You told us about this campaign last year.
Yeah,
what happened? It fell through.
So we have to go through a proper process, which everybody should, and I completely support the council's process for asset transfer, so it's transparent. There's a solid business plan, so people who are taking it on can get it reopened and run it for at least 3 years, and be reviewed and be supported. Unfortunately, the pledges, my understanding is that Downs and Special Friends pledges didn't come through fast enough in time. They needed a certain amount of money to show to the council, and they couldn't hit that amount by the deadline. So now it's up for auction, and I hope that actually the £200,000, or let's say it gets sold for 300k, that's not even 1 week's budget in the council. That money just comes and disappears, and it will never come back again. It's a one-off, influx of cash.
So are you going to fight?
So my appeal to the council is, honestly, do a proper assessment on how much it's going to cost to reopen it. There was some indication by Foxes to use some of their waste heat to pipe it through and across to heat the swimming pool to reduce energy costs. So energy costs in our country as a whole are just through the roof. It's ridiculous. The fossil fuel companies and utility companies are making money hand over fist, and we're paying still 2 times the energy cost before the war in Ukraine. And our government hasn't done enough on windfall taxes to subsidise at least energy costs for the low paid or the people on benefits, the disabled and the pensioners. So there's lots of different things that the government could do. But I think £200,000 is pennies
or micro pennies for the council. It doesn't run any real service for any length of time. So why are you going to sell an asset that's really worth much more than that? Invest that 200k in it to reopen it.
I mean, I was going to jump in. I was going to ask if, you know, if it's Dewsbury Sports Centre and Cronus Park and Batley, if they're part of this wider concern. I feel like your answers have, once again...
But on Cronus Park, you know, the
that.
cafe, they invested, I think, 50,000 on a disabled lift before they shut down the building. We really need to either have the council fully run these facilities, or we need to find some way of the council partnering with local business, sponsors. We are the bed capital of Europe. You know, we have some amazing industries, you know, some nationally known names and locally known. We supply, you know, major retailers, etc. And I think, you know, if they had a process where businesses could work with the council with transparency, knowing that if they donated funds or helped with certain renovations, that facility would be made available to the community.
But your constituents would be saying you should be working to make this happen.
So I've raised the Dewsbury Sports Centre issue 3 times in the chamber. I've had a meeting with the safety minister specifically about
in the chamber at the House of Commons.
In the House of Commons. So,
what about with the council? Do you need to be getting
so
into dialogue
I
with
work
the council?
alongside the Save Dewsbury Sports Centre campaign group. I've joined a meeting with the cabinet specifically. I am there to support them in their action and also to give my advice. But they should take all the credit for the work that they've been doing tirelessly. And as I say, I have tried to support any idea. You know, I was on a parliamentary visit to Doha recently, and my aim was to try and connect with maybe business people or investors that run leisure facilities, and maybe they're not even aware that we've got this brilliant facility. It probably needs, the council believes it needs £10 million investment to repair and reopen it. But they don't actually have a quote. So I've asked for a breakdown, and the cabinet, the head of, the leader of the cabinet has said, we just have the 2-line summary in the report that was presented to cabinet. So I asked the minister to fund an intrusive survey so we get a detailed line-by-line costings. And if it's not 10 million, if it's 1 million, 1.5 million, surely the council would want to spend 1.5 million instead of 35 million in 2-3 years. You know, I'm trying to work with the council and saying, you know what, at the moment, this is good enough. It's good enough. The dry side it didn't need any work doing and can be, you know, maybe repurposed and have some small investment to make it more usable or have different sports facilities. So, but I have struggled to engage the council, to engage with the council and have really meaningful conversations, and they are quite patronising and condescending when we've had meetings, and quite dismissive of ideas, you know, creative solutions. As I say, they take us for uneducated idiots, and I think they need to change their opinion of Dewsbury and Batley and work with us instead of working against us.
That's nice. So I'm going to jump into some general questions. These are just relating to you as an MP. So what has been the steepest learning curve for you since becoming an MP?
There's been many.
Name one.
No transition from the previous MP. So when you take over a business that's already existing, then the previous owner would tell you everything, hand over, you know, their procedures, their accounts, their repair list, their debts, the invoices you have to pay, and all the... So what I was hoping, I'd get a list of open cases so I could continue the work of the previous MPs for my constituents. A lot of people didn't know that I wouldn't know. And when they've reached out with the same issues, why haven't you done anything? Why haven't you helped me? It was like, I'm really sorry, but I didn't know you had an open case. So I think that was something I'm feeding into the modernisation committee. Sitting in chambers with 12 cameras pointed at you and about 150 microphones was absolutely terrifying initially. But when I first got up, my first ever question was to this education secretary about a constituent. And I asked it well. got exactly out, or, said what I needed to say, and got offered a meeting with the minister. And that's the first day I felt like a real MP, because I'd spoken about a constituent in the chamber to a.
That's really good for you. I'm happy for you. But one of the things I can't get over is when you were being sworn in as MP. Anyway, I swear there was, I think you had a little
stumble.
You stumbled. Oh,
Yeah.
that clip's still there, and I'm like, I bet that keeps you up at night.
So I haven't seen that clip for ages, but I see the photo, because there was a proper photo of that. That is one of the proudest days of my life.
I don't want to rain on your parade.
So I know I stumbled over the word majesty. But you know what? It makes me seem real, like a real human being, a normal person representing normal people with normal and abnormal problems. And I don't ever look back at that and feel embarrassed, not even for one moment.
2 more questions, but I think that's a perfect point to just call it a video. I think my team behind the scenes is getting tired as well. Bless them, they've been standing there. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. You've been very, very insightful. You've done much better in comparison to last year. I mean, do you want to tell the audience what last year was like? I won't say anything.
So one of the things I was terrified of before I became elected was the media and doing interviews and not embarrassing my community. I'm Dewsbury born and bred. Batley is my neighbours. I didn't want to embarrass my community, my family, or my faith. And it was really but I woke up on the morning of the election, after gone to sleep, after the results, with superpowers I never had. But you need to practice, you need to do things to get better at it.
That's got nothing to do with what I asked. I'm asking you about the last interview. You're talking about superpowers.
So at the time we did the interview last year, my superpowers are still developing.
Okay. Do you want to specify? Or should we just leave it at that?
I think it was about cousin marriages, and I didn't get my words out in the right order.
Yeah, and then what happened with that take of the interview? Do you want to tell them
well,
that?
It wasn't.
Since we've got that
thankfully,
far.
it wasn't broadcast. So.
Yeah. You see, he jumped straight into the cousin marriages part, left out the part where I had to just completely cancel the whole take. But I mean, okay, it's all right. Thank you.
I appreciate that was for a greater good, and it helped me serve my constituents better.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you very much for your time. Wish you all the best. But yeah, as always, this has been Pulsivate. I've been Amar Hussain. Lots of love.